Hello and welcome to the Audacity Factor. My name is Catherine Daw. I'm your host here and also founder of the Audacity Factor community on Patreon. Please join me there. You can just click on the QR code that's right above me here. So today we're going to talk about if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. Now, you may or may not know where that quote came from, but that was Roy Rogers back in the day. If you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. And this really smacks of that whole insanity argument of doing the same thing over and over and again, expecting a different result. But it's true. If you are continue to do something that is not working, then it behooves you to set that aside and go do something else, even if it's something completely different. And then you can make another attempt to come back at that same strategy. However, I would encourage you to find something else. Find another way, use a different strategy. That one obviously is not working for you. And what that can do too is it narrows our field of vision and our focus so much that everything's contracted and it's impossible to see additional possibilities, have additional insights, because it's almost like we have blinders on and are unable to see anything other than trying to make this one thing work. And I am absolutely a believer. If something is not working and you keep repeating over and over again, I'm going to make this work. We need to make this work. I would probably say from my own experience, 98% of the time, it is not going to work and it's not meant to work. And you can't make something work. Now we can adjust our strategy. We can get a completely different strategy because there are always other ways to create the same thing, but in a different way. And oftentimes those additional possibilities and insights will lead you to something even better than what you had originally thought. It's so much of it is about what we think we want. We think it's going to be that person and they need to be the person for us, and we're going to make it happen no matter how we have to twist ourselves or try to twist them into being what it is that we want it to be. So you have to really kind of take a look at what's real. And I talk about this all the time. We've got to start from a place of what's real and not from a place of what we would rather it be, what we want it to be, what we think we need it to be, what we're trying to make it into, instead of looking at the reality of it and seeing what's actually there for you to work with. And if you don't have the things that you need, well, then that maybe is a sign for you to visit other shores, other doors, and close that one behind you. Taking off our blinders can be a really big part of this. Because it keeps our vision so contracted. Like we can't, if you're looking down and the more you narrow it, you're only seeing this much of any given picture. So if you can look up and see there's so much more around you, and there's definitely more opportunities and more possibilities and insights when you can allow for that. If you need things to be in that, what I call the cattle chute, that's up to you. We all get to choose what that is. And, maybe someone else's courage or boldness or fearlessness is scary for you. But you don't need to compare yourselves to them. We all have our own level of courage, and that can start with just the small things. And you don't ever have to be this fearless person where you're willing to, I don't know, dive off a cliff. But, you can surely step your toe in the water and maybe, ford the creek instead of feeling like you have to do something big and dramatic. But when we're in this hole, recognize too that the hole, literally, when you find yourself in that hole, and a lot of that can be a pattern. a pattern that you consistently revisit and dig even further into until you end up trapping yourself once again. And a lot of that can just be this circular pattern that just brings you back to the same place over and over and over again. I know I did that for years. And instead of recognizing it was up to me to, number one, stop digging, put down the spoon, the shovel, the backhoe, whatever it is you're digging with, put it down and stop digging. Your goal now is to recognize, okay, you're in this hole. It's dark. Your field of vision is super small because the only things that exist there in that hole are the darkness and the constriction. You can't see anything else. Not to mention you're like this. So, when you stop that, look around and recognize that now it's up to you to climb out of that hole. So you've got to look up so that you can actually see. Take a breath. Prepare to start climbing out of that hole. And from there, you'll be able to see possibilities, have a much broader view of what's actually available to you, recognizing that you need space for that. And in that hole, there is no space for that. So if you are in that pattern of digging, stop digging. If you're in that pattern of doing the same thing over and over and over again, recognize it's a cycle and it will bring you right back to where you started. Recognize that you can step out of that pattern as well. And that's up to you to interrupt the pattern, interrupt the digging, see what's real and true in front of you, and then make new choices. And make sure you leave the shovel somewhere behind. You don't need that just in case. And now that you know where this hole is, because you don't have to fill it in, that is not something that you need to do. A lot of people talk about closure, and I did this video. I think it's probably number one, two, or three in the very beginning of my podcast episodes. And it talks about this illusion and this false notion of closure. Well, you don't need to fill that hole in. You just need to walk away from the hole and recognize if you find yourself back at the hole, you don't need to go back in. You don't need to re-examine it. And there is no such thing as closure. You're relying on trying to get something from somebody else to give you something that you think you need to move on from something. There's a song that I heard. I don't remember the name of the song or who it was by, but it was something I heard. And this was unfortunately while my father was actively dying. But part of it says that if you're strong enough to let it in, you're strong enough to let it out. And that doesn't just apply to a relationship. It can apply everywhere. If you can be open enough to let it in, you can be open enough to let it out, to let it go, to disengage, to dismantle, to shed, whatever that is for you, release, let go, whatever the terminology that connects with you, use that in this. Knowing that it's up to you to put the shovel down, stop digging, and see what's what. All right. Today, Monday, August 19th, 2024, here at the Audacity Factor. Please check out the QR code, visit me on Patreon, join my free membership community. That would be fantastic. I would love to see you all there and see what's available for you. I'll see y'all tomorrow.